Hey, and welcome back to Game Talk. I'm your host, Em, and beyond today I'm joined by Connor.
Hey, guys.
And Mike.
Hello.
And it is our first episode of 2024. I hope you all had a happy new year, happy end of the year with your friends and family. Some crazy stuff happened between, I think, the last time we recorded and this episode. Insomniac, PlayStation's arguably flagship first-party studio, was attacked by some ransomware attack. The hacker group demanded, I think, $2 million in exchange for the information they stole, which was a lot of information, right? We're talking about, what was it, like several terabytes, I believe? Like 1-2 terabytes of information, not only about Insomniac, but about PlayStation Studios as a whole. But the worst part, Insomniac employees, their personal information, like their home addresses, social security numbers, information that you don't want public, was made public. So it is absolutely a security disaster for Insomniac and Sony. So I feel really bad for them, especially because this happened right at the end of the year. Like, you know, they were probably looking forward to taking some time off, relaxing with their family, and now this happened. So best wishes to Insomniac. I really hope that Sony is able to provide them with the security and the recovery, whatever recovery methods they need to take to sort of right this information leak.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like corporate insurance for this kind of thing.
I feel like there has to be.
Because they just have to move, like on some level, like your address is out now, you know? Like,
yeah.
That's awful, especially
especially considering how weird some people, some gamers can be, right? Like,
no, some guy who's never played a Spider-Man game but thinks Xbox is better could like show up to your house, you know? Like, gamers suck.
And that sounds psychotic to someone who is like not really following games, but like it could absolutely happen. You know, like people here have like a weird stalkery. Obviously not like most people, but there is like a very vocal, crazy portion of gamers that are capable of something like this. But yeah, so in the spirit of protecting Insomniac employees' personal information, we're not going to link any sources to what we're going to talk about today. But I do want to talk about some things, like the leaked PlayStation Studios information, like the leaked Insomniac games information, because I think that information is very juicy, and it kind of informs us about the current state of PlayStation in a way that we would not have access to just publicly available information. So these leaks are really sort of giving us like a very close look at the inside of PlayStation that you normally would not get. So with that being said, maybe we should just start with the Insomniac specific ones and then move on to the PlayStation Studio leaks. So for Insomniac, several things were leaked. So one was a 25-30 minute vertical slice of Wolverine. So I don't know if either of you saw this.
I've seen some of the footage, mostly like, I just want to say, I don't have a ton to say about the footage because it was so early, it just really doesn't say anything to me. But it said a lot about how stupid gamers are. Like, so many people were like, Insomniac should just throw this out. This looks terrible. And it's like, yeah, man, it's not finished.
People who don't work on games, a lot of them don't realize a game looks like complete dog water, largely like moments before the end of production. like when you see a trailer, like there was a lot of development time dedicated to just making that one part of the game look good enough to show. Absolutely.
Which sucks that you have to do that, but you do have to do that because like, yeah, the rest of the game probably still looks terrible at that point. And like that's why a lot of trailers are fake and stuff. And a lot of we run into, and this is the opposite of that, but a lot of times games look way better at E3 than they do when they come out. It's because you're not actually looking at the game at E3. You're looking at like what they're pretty sure they're going to be able to do. And sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
You're looking at like their target, right? And like game development is such a dynamic and ever evolving thing that you're not ever going to exactly hit your target. You can hit a close approximation to it, and sometimes that approximation is better, sometimes it's worse, but that's just the nature of game development. And this right here, like, it is a vertical slice. So, like, everything you see in it should be taken with a grain of salt. But it more just describes their vision for this Wolverine game. And I think I don't know, I think they're on the right track. Like, I'm excited to play this game when it actually comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. I don't know. I was way more focused on, like, the brain dead takes around it, I guess. I don't even remember much about the footage. I remember, like, it looked, slower, which makes sense. And, yeah, I don't know. Was there even any combat shown?
I don't remember. I only, like, really, like, glanced through it because I just don't care, Like,
yeah, it's really one of those, I have so much faith that this game
when the game is out, I will watch it.
Yeah, this game is going to be at least good. Like, the bare minimum, I don't think Insomniac is going to make a bad game. I can't think of a time they ever have. So, I'll play it,
Yeah.
Well, 2 years later when it comes to PC.
I think more interesting is that Insomniac's roadmap got leaked. And this roadmap extends for basically a decade, it seems. Right? So
this I didn't see.
Yeah. So in 2023, we have Spider-Man 2, right? Which we know it released, we know it was good. Whatever. That's the past at this point. No game for 2024, which is understandable. They just put out a game. 2025, they're putting out a Venom game. And this is going to be a smaller scope game in the vein of Miles Morales.
That could be really good, though.
And the leak says you roughly like 10 story missions, 3 major boss battles, and you alternate between like playing as Venom and then the Spider Heroes.
That's cool. So it's going to be like big Venom. It's not going to be like an Agent Venom type thing.
See, that's the thing. We don't exactly know. I would assume it's big Venom, but I don't know if those details are out there yet.
Big Venom's been done before and cool, like Ultimate Spider-Man, I think. Yeah. That could be a fun game. 10 story missions makes it sound really short. I bet that's not any shorter than Miles Morales, though.
Yeah, I think they're aiming for a Miles Morales type size game, which is perfectly fine. Miles Morales was awesome.
Yeah,
so
no, I prefer it to Spider-Man.
I've been vocal before about how I yearn for sort of that like 8 to 10 hour single player experience that no longer really exists anymore. That's right up my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Hopefully they can do it with a lot, a cheaper produced asset reuse kind of situation.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, and we'll talk about this later, but like, you see the money they made on Miles Morales, and it was, a slam dunk of a decision, right? Because it cost much fewer resources compared to like 1 and 2, but it made a lot of money in comparison.
Yeah.
So 2025, they're aiming for Venom. 2026 now is Wolverine. So I feel like before we got a target date of 2025, I don't know if I just imagined that or whatever, but like, according to this leaked document, which again, by the way, all of this could change. Things change all the time.
No, that's an internal date, I imagine, the 2026, and I wouldn't be even a little bit surprised if it gets pushed back. That's, that's ambitious, I think.
So Wolverine in 2026, right? And then 2027, there is nothing. And in 2028, they're aiming for Spider-Man 3. And they plan to have 3 Spider people playable in this game, which shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. Well, I don't know.
If you haven't played Spider-Man 2,
scene. Yeah,
I looked it up after you talked about it.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's not really a spoiler for the game.
It's not really that. Yeah. So, Cindy Moon is going to be playable in this game, which is cool, right? She's kind of like a newer Spider person. Everyone would have thought like Gwen would be the answer, but they went with Cindy Moon.
That's what I said, yeah.
So,
well, Miles Morales is pretty new too. He's only he's not even 10 years old, I don't think.
Isn't Cindy Moon the newest one? Or maybe, I don't really know about Spider-Man comics, but
that's not unlikely. I have never heard of her, so probably.
So then 2028, Spider-Man 3, which by the way, like even like already this release cadence is insane, right? Like if you think about it, AAA game developers in 2024, like they're putting out
that's 5 years for,
but they're putting out no, I'm saying like in general, they're putting out a game almost every other year.
Oh yeah. I'm just thinking between numbered entries, that's like 5 years.
Yeah, between like in that series, that amount of time makes sense. I think because it was 5 years
these are totally separate teams. I would think.
18. Well, I think the way it works is they have these separate teams, but once one project finishes, they like everyone pours over into the next project, and then
because usually like one team when you're doing games. This is I'll part the kimono a little bit. I've done a lot of research into game dev business and stuff, and I read Jesse Schell's game dev. He wrote The Art of Game Design. Game Dev Business Handbook is by Mike Bithell and Company. It's by Bithell Games. And when you're talking to people to get funding, they want to know your next 3 games because you are going to have, otherwise you'll have people idle on your team. Like your artists are not going to have work to do the entire development process. So they're going to want to start on your next game before your current game is finished a lot of the time. And I'm sure Insomniac just has people moving around all the time.
No, absolutely. Like, I don't know if I have these documents handy, but I think part of this leak was showing that, like, hey, this is how many percentage of people were on Spider-Man 2, this is how many percentage of people are on Wolverine, and how is that going to change once Spider-Man 2 releases. Like, a lot of interesting information about, like, the chemical makeup of these teams was leaked, but might not have access to it at this very moment. But if you're really interested, this stuff is now available. You could dig it up. Okay, so continuing, right? So, like, where were we? So Spider-Man 3 was targeting 2028. And that's kind of wild to think about because 2028 will probably be around when next gen gets started.
Yeah, I suspect it'll be a dual release, that's just the only thing that makes sense to me because that definitely won't be far enough into the next gen for it to be an exclusive, I don't think.
And in 2029, they're releasing a new Ratchet and Clank, which
that's so long between Ratchet and Clanks.
It sort of tracks though, because it seems like lately their cadence for Ratchet and Clank has just been one a gen, right?
That's crazy that they just have that planned out already, though. To me, like
it is crazy that like it's literally a decade of their plans just out in the ether now.
That just feels like one of those things that's like almost a post-it note on the end of it. Like that's so.
Dude, that's the crazy thing, though. There are design docs for this Ratchet and Clank game that have been leaked.
That's crazy.
And they're aiming for something like, I guess, No Man's Sky-ish, Starfield-ish, in the sense that they want you to have your own ship, be able to fly that around in this game, fly between planets in this game.
What year was this again?
2029.
So 2029. So let's take a step back and like pretend that like 5 years before the PS5 was out, did Insomniac know like what that the PS5 was going to have an SSD and like because that feels so integral to that game?
Absolutely, they knew, right? Okay. Like, so this isn't part of this leak, but just as someone who follows this kind of stuff, maybe around 2015 or so is when the design of the PS5 was sort of finalized.
What year did it come out? 2018?
The PS5?
Yeah.
That was 2020.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't buy consoles at launch anymore.
Like a few years into the gen, they already start talking about design for the next generation console. And what they do is they go to all of their partners and studios and be like, what do you want to see? And the number one thing they asked for the PlayStation 5 was a really good solid state drive. So
okay.
That being said, where were you going with that, Connor? Do you have some ideas as to what technology maybe they would want?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, can we see from this design doc what the PlayStation 6 is going to look like? Because
what features it would have. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you asked me, the only thing I could think of is like better ray tracing, or maybe AI, like DLSS, FSR sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because like that might be a little too into the future to even know. But obviously they're having these discussions now. But like part of these leaks, and maybe it wasn't attached to this leak, but just in general, information about the PlayStation 5 Pro is leaking, and they plan on incorporating a home-baked AI upscaling solution.
Okay.
So not DLSS, not FSR, but Sony's sort of own thing.
See, that's it. That's just interesting to me because like ray tracing is cool, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I do not feel that it is defining this generation in any way. Like, and that's like the big new graphical feature this gen, and I just don't think it's still it's a novelty.
I don't know. Like on console, it's not. But would you not agree that on PC, that like the newest graphically cutting edge games are all like ray tracing, path tracing? That's like the big show off feature, right?
It's just a novelty, and like PC doesn't have this as much as console does. But like the thing that defines this generation, in my mind, is the SSD on both Xbox and PlayStation. It's that load times.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Like, but that's changing the way games are made,
right? Like, there's maybe this is naive, right? This could change very easily in the future, but like as of right now, it feels like there's not much ground left to cover visually speaking.
I agree.
Like graphics have already gotten so good, so
that's why I think like, what is the PS6 going to do? Because it is a very hard sell to me. I mean, to get me to upgrade my PC now would be an extremely hard sell. Like, I just don't know. I'm already getting pretty good frame rates at 4K. FSR3 is coming out. I'm going to be getting better frame rates at 4K on my same graphics card. Like, what can you sell me at this point? I know I have like the expensive PC and stuff, but I'm actually not a huge graphics snob, really. Like, I can play on medium settings if I have to. I'm interested in what game design opportunities we can get out of this. Mm-hmm. And even if if it's just like, hey, no, the standard is now 120 FPS, okay, I could get on board with that. But, I feel like they need more than that. Frame rate doesn't sell.
I feel like there are rooms in this industry where I would kill to be a fly on the wall, because these discussions are happening with people that are basically the leads and the cutting edge for like developing these technologies. So what do they have to say about this? But all we can do is speculate.
And interesting that there's no VR anywhere in the Insomniac.
Yeah.
Interesting. Not crazy, because like Spider-Man VR is kind of a wild.
Yeah, that would instant vomit simulator.
But it's just interesting that like it feels like something that's pretty important to PlayStation, and weird that it's not on Insomniac, which is like
I don't know, like
one of their biggest studios.
This might be a separate topic, but is it still important to PlayStation? Like maybe it's speaking a little too soon, but like PSVR 2 does not seem to be hitting in the way they want it to. So it might just go the way of the Vita, which would sadden me. But
that's exactly what I was thinking, and it's because the same reason as the Vita, which is like, these new things need to be fostered, not kicked to the curb the second they don't return. Yeah,
because
the PSVR 2 is cool.
For now, they are still developing first party content for it, but like it's just a matter of like how long will they be willing to do that before saying like, okay, into the trash bin it goes with the Vita.
I just don't want Meta to be the only game in VR, and it feels sometimes like that's where we're. Well, Valve isn't going to pull out a VR. I think this is an episode topic.
With Meta, it is another topic. But Meta is like very like wholly focused.
They're all in,
on VR, which is scary, right? Like they could do it if they.
No, it's intensely frustrating to see. What was it, an 89 or a 91 or something? Asgard's Wrath 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like possibly one of the best games that came out this year. None of us can play it because I'm not going to buy a MetaQuest, and it's an exclusive.
I know, right? Man.
And it looked really fun. I looked up gameplay, but that's a whole. I feel like we should do a yearly VR episode. I think we have.
I think we do. Like we don't plan on it, but we do, just because
I just get an itch.
I think it's so
it.
interesting.
Yeah.
But we are not done with this timeline yet. Wildly enough, 2030 X-Men.
Yeah, I did see that. That'll be cool. That'll be really cool.
It is great to see that like they're going somewhere with Wolverine, right? Like now we have context. Wolverine is in fact leading into X-Men, and I feel like around 2030 is when Marvel themselves will be getting around to X-Men.
Oh,
so there might be a good sort of synergy there.
I'm dying for a good X-Men game, dude.
X-Men really does hit different. I really enjoy.
Yeah.
The good. Let me just put it this way: the good X-Men movies are so freaking good.
Even like the Quicksilver scenes are so fun.
Yeah.
Like, I even in the bad X-Men movie. Like I don't think Apocalypse was that good. I'll say it. I didn't think First Class was that the one?
I really liked First Class. Days of Future Past is
there we go. Yeah.
One of the best superhero movies, period, as far as I'm concerned.
It was good. But have you played any X-Men games? Because I was into like X-Men Legends as a kid, just because I thought it was so cool to have so many playable characters and powers.
Really think if I have, it's only been like at a friend's house or like tangentially or something.
I hate that style of game though. Like it was like the top down. Yeah, did you ever play Ultimate Alliance? The Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Those games were fun too. I like.
Yeah, I messed around with Ultimate Alliance. I think once or twice.
I like a game like you have all these characters, but they all feel exactly the same. Like,
that's the thing. But like with X-Men, especially, right? And this is why I'm glad Insomniac is doing it.
Yeah,
this is going to be a very good story-driven game, and X-Men stories are really good. Like, there's so much to mine there.
A lot of potential. And I just feel like Insomniac will do it justice. I don't think it'll be... I'm not... Do it justice isn't fair. People like X-Men Legends. People like Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I just would like more than that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, like, we're going to get a story-driven X-Men game with, like, really good characters. And that's huge.
God, what if somebody did that with the Avengers?
No way.
Oh, my God. Whoa.
It is wild that no one has tried that. Like, that is astounding to me.
It's wild that Square Enix had every opportunity to try that and didn't.
They just didn't. They were like, you know what? Like, I bet they were at a crossroads where like, all right, we either make this a single player narrative focused game or
set
a live
$1 billion on fire.
And everyone was like, live service, because we're going to make so much money. And then like, it just got flushed down the toilet.
Yeah. Oh my God. What a waste.
But I will say, right, like, okay, and there's one other thing to talk about for this timeline.
Yeah.
2031, 32, new IP. So,
oh, wow.
We don't know what that is, but it's going to be a decade before we get something fresh from Insomniac, which is, I think, a little frustrating. Especially,
really?
I mean, I personally love X-Men, I love Spider-Man, so I'm pretty set, but I do think it would be neat to see something new from them too.
See, that just doesn't bother me that much because that cadence makes sense to me. Like
the cadence is the cadence is insane, right? According to this timeline, and I'm not going to even say if this will change. Like there's no way like they can know this far in advance, but like right now at least they're planning 28, 29, 30 game each year. So that really sounds like the opening years of the PlayStation 6.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's sort of sounding like what they did for the PS5 generation.
I don't think it's wild. Like, I guess it's been a really long time since I've done a new IP, unless we count Spider-Man as a new IP. And I kind of do.
I kind of do.
They put so much into that world, even if it is derivative, very derivative of the work of Marvel and everything. And I think they're going to do that with Wolverine 2, so I'll count that as a new IP. And then X-Men is a new IP in that sense, like, which is a lot more... Yeah,
I mean, like, we just don't know what X-Men will be. Like, my assumption was, like, okay, you can play as Logan again, you can play as Wolverine, but then maybe you can also play as, like, 5 other people, and it's just, like, a story, like, action-adventure game that way, but maybe that's entirely wrong. I don't know.
I don't know if this is a hot take. I'd be disappointed if it doesn't have co-op. Like, an X-Men game should have co-op, in my opinion. It's the team comic. Like,
it is funny that you say that because I think there is another leak here talking about Insomniac's online ambitions.
Ooh.
So they do have intentions to foray into the realm of multiplayer, which is not something Insomniac has done since Resistance, right, Mike? Resistance had online multiplayer.
They released a Xbox game. I don't remember the name. And also there were several Ratchet and Clank games that were like
Sunset
multiplayer.
Overdrive?
Oh yeah, Sunset
no,
Overdrive.
Not Sunset.
Yeah.
Hold on. I remember the name. It was like this weird shooter. I don't remember
Xbox?
the name. Yeah, it was on Xbox. I'm looking at it. Give me a list.
Well, I'll talk about the multiplayer Ratchet and Clank because it was pretty fun. But that was on PS2.
It was Fuse.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
2013's Fuse, and then they released 2013's Fuse was multiplayer, which was a year before Sunset.
Man, I did not even hear about this game. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But so that's 2013 though. It's been a long time since Insomniac's done multiplayer.
Yeah. I would love to see I don't know. There's just a lot of games I'd love to see co-op, and I actually don't know if it works in Spider-Man really. I know the dream of like being, playing as one of the Spider-Men and your buddy's the other one, but I don't actually know if it would, like, the balance is a nightmare for that, I feel like. But with X-Men, you gotta, because, like, their team stuff is, like, the whole thing.
Yeah, if they, I don't know what the ambition for this X-Men game is, but like if they make it like somehow like a multiplayer story-driven game where like you can play through this whole story as different X-Men with other people,
and that's
that
not
would be
unheard
really
of. Like,
sick. Yeah.
I mean, even it'd be cool if you could do it with your friends, but like Devil May Cry 5 did it where it just matched you with a random person to play the other character. Like it would prioritize your friends, but if you didn't have any play in the game, it would just pick a random person to play the guy you're not playing, and you would like run into him every once in a while. That could work. It is a design problem where if you make a game that is better for multiplayer, like, you know, can the people without friends play it? I get that, but
yeah. But in terms of online ambition, right? Like they have this online multiplayer timeline as well, and I have no idea how valid this still is, if this is even something they're still thinking about. But I think each PlayStation Studios, especially since the acquisition of Bungie, like they've had multiplayer on their mind. Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, that's where all the money is.
Yeah.
Like well, not all the money, but what I'm saying is the kind of Fortnite money that everyone seems to be hungry over. Yeah, that's where it is. And that's kind of what everyone is chasing right now. So with that in mind,
I mean, we can't ignore the fact that Naughty Dog just turned it down like a month ago.
They did turn it down, and that was a huge decision.
And it was the right decision.
It had to be the right decision, right? Like it was either they said in that open letter that they were like, either we stick to our roots as a single player developer or become an only games as a service studio. Like,
yeah,
how was that even like? I think it's one of those things where it was obvious to me, almost everyone at that studio was just like, yes, can we please just make single player games? But some executives were like, no, we need you to make a games as a service game.
Yeah.
And it seems like the developers ended up winning that battle, which is good. So
I think it's more complicated than that. I don't want to skip over that too quickly, because I did see some of the developers who worked on it.
No, they had dedicated staff for that game.
Yeah,
right?
No, I saw people on Twitter
there are people who are very
that,
proud of that game.
That it was the most fun people claiming it was the most fun multiplayer experience they'd ever had. I find it hard to believe because but I'm a Last of Us hater. So like, there was an audience for that, you know?
There was. And like the factions off the original game was super loved as well. So like it had a base to build off of. But I don't know. They did mention in that letter that like the things they learned while developing this game will be incorporated into other games. So it wasn't a total waste. But
okay. Yeah, because I don't see why is it not a Last of Us 3 with a GTA Online style component, I guess. I don't know.
So, I don't know. I really think that the ambitions for this game just grew too much, right? Like, it's just not enough anymore in 2024 or 2023, apparently, to have a game with a multiplayer mode, like Uncharted 4 or something.
Yeah.
Right? Like, now if you do multiplayer, it has to be live service, and it has to be supported for years, and it has to have all this.
Yeah.
It's just annoying to me, right? Like,
to be fair,
a normal multiplayer mode is fine.
I don't know. I never played Uncharted 4s. I did play Uncharted 3s.
Okay, so I checked it out. I mean, it's not like it was a regular go-to, but like, it was a nice additional mode. But that's the thing. Like, the people buying Uncharted 4 are not buying it for multiplayer. Like, it's just some nice thing that's there.
I think Sony has a bloat problem, though. I don't think those multiplayer modes don't just happen. Like, that's development time. That's a lot of money. And I think it is mostly wasted. Like, people are not really playing. Like, I didn't play the Uncharted 4, so I can't say anything about it. But Uncharted 3... it felt extremely half-baked, but like to half-bake a video game is really expensive. You know?
Yeah.
They don't come out of nowhere.
The multiplayer felt half-baked, but the single player felt fully cooked.
It felt immaculate, yeah.
The single player is why people come to those. My point is, though, like, I think they're making the correct decision here. Just let the single-player studios make single-player games, and then have the multiplayer studio make multiplayer games.
I agree. I just don't... I think I'm against multiplayer modes, I think is what I'm saying. I think we're in a world where like a game can be just a multiplayer game and a game can be just a single player game. Like tacking on
the idea of having a multiplayer mode is a very like
it's dated.
2000s, 2010s era kind of concept. I don't know. It's inoffensive to me if it's there, like, and it's just fine, right? Because it's not why I'm coming to that game. But
there are exceptions though. Like Titanfall 1's campaign is like sublime. Or no, Titanfall 2's campaign is sublime. Titanfall 1 was panned for not having a campaign.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I got mixed feelings about it, I guess.
Would you believe me if I told you we're not done with the roadmap yet?
Oh my god.
So, new IP in 2031. X-Men 3 in 2033.
Wait, X-Men 3?
So I guess they're treating Wolverine as like the first X-Men game, X-Men as the second one, and then X-Men 3 or whatever as the third one.
Okay.
Which is a little confusing, but 2033, we're basically a decade in the future right now. And, like, there's no way... We're so far out, there's almost no point in even speculating. Like, because we haven't even gotten Wolverine yet.
Yeah, no,
there's
like,
no way of
all
knowing
of this
what could even possibly be.
Like, Wolverine could bomb and these both get canceled. Like,
it's possible. It's probably
not
going to happen, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we have on this timeline, new IP2 in 2035.
Wow. 2 new IPs in that quick succession.
So, it does seem interesting to me that with the PlayStation 6, it seems like Insomniac is going to venture into new territory. And it is also interesting to me that it seems like Spider-Man's done after Spider-Man 3. Which is
that's true.
Which I respect that, if that's really the case. If they're like, we have a story we're telling and it's going to be over in 3, I love that for them.
Well, I think it's wild that there's not another asset reuse game planned after 3. Another
at least
Miles
not
Morales.
according to this timeline.
Yeah.
But like maybe 3 could just be the conclusion of the story.
Because 3's 2028, right?
3 is let me pull it up again.
I think that's what you said.
2028, 2027. Yeah.
So that's like
one. It's
years.
funny. One timeline has it on 2027, the other one has 2028. So it's even amongst their own assets, it's not locked down.
But we're looking 5 years ahead of that, and we're not seeing a sequel. That's wild.
Yeah. So it could be one of those things as well where they're just going to let it sleep for a while.
Yeah.
But if there's anything Star Wars has taught me, it's just like it's healthy to leave things alone for a while.
Actually, let me check something.
What's up?
I'm checking when Spider-Man enters the public domain. No, they have plenty of time.
Oh, there's no way.
Yeah,
is that happening anytime soon?
2058. No, it's a long time.
Okay, that's a long time away.
I didn't know how old Spider-Man was.
Mickey Mouse enters public domain this year.
Oh, he's already in.
He
Steamboat
has.
Willie. It's not Mickey Mouse as Mickey Mouse, but Steamboat
Willie. No, it is
Mickey
Mickey Mouse, though. You can use the name. You can use the original design. Yeah. I was just wondering, like, if they were just going to stop making Spider-Man games. I was like, is it an ownership issue? I don't know.
Well,
I wonder if it's probably a contract issue. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Their initial contract that they made with Marvel, which actually I think got leaked too. So if we wanted to, we could dig it up. But it was probably something for like, you're going to make 3 to 5 games or something for X amount of dollars or something, and it has to generate this much money or your contract is null or something like that. So they hammered out a contract for Spider-Man, and based off the goodwill from that, presumably they hammered out a contract for X-Men. So we'll see where all this leads. I would imagine if Wolverine comes out and is really good, they would jump on another contract with Marvel and have them do something, or with Insomniac and have them do another Marvel project.
Yeah, I'm all for the Insomniac Spider-Man games. I don't love that we're like, the first Spider-Man game was 2018?
Yes.
So that's 10 years of only Insomniac being allowed to make Spider-Man games versus...
See, that's kind of what I was saying, right? Like,
yeah, that sucks.
I wish it would be, like, Insomniac could do, like, those new IPs they're doing in the 2030s, like, I kind of wish they were happening sooner.
Oh, I meant the opposite. I mean, I wish other companies could make Spider-Man games. Like, historically, Spider-Man has had, like, there's been a lot of cooks in that kitchen,
Right.
Like, and not all of them have been good, but I like that style. I like that there was just a lot.
Well, I'm sure after 2028 or whatever, when Spider-Man 3 is done and the contract's up, then they would maybe go to someone else like Activision again.
It just
to make more Spider-Man games. But for this amount of time, like, it just speaks to the trust they had in Insomniac with, like, their vision for Spider-Man, the story they're trying to tell, and all of that.
I just wish that these characters wouldn't get caged up like that for 10 years at a time, Like,
yeah.
Because, we used to get, Spider-Man games used to be every couple of years there was a new one coming out from somebody.
Yeah, like speed, like it was everywhere. Now we're in an era where like exclusive licensings for characters is a real thing.
And like, remember when EA got like exclusive rights to Star Wars for a while?
Yeah,
and it was
just
like
2 games.
Hellacious. Yeah, like I don't know. It's not a good way. Well, I don't know how the dollars come out, but I don't think it is a good way to handle an intellectual property in the sense. And this is almost a moot point because obviously these Spider-Man games are good. I'm not dunking on Insomniac in any way here. I don't like the characters being locked down like that, I guess. But back on, is that the end of the timeline though?
Yeah, that's the end of the timeline. So we go for a decade plus. We have a rough outline of what Insomniac will be doing for the next decade, which is interesting. I think, like even just looking at the timing of a lot of things, you can make educated guesses as to like when the next console is going to release. And like they said that Wolverine will have some like AI/ML upscaling capabilities, which really points to a PlayStation 5 Pro being out by the time Wolverine comes out.
Do you think it'll require new hardware though? Like what if that's just an upgrade that all PS5s get? Because it could be. FSR didn't require new hardware.
It could be, but then like what the heck is the PlayStation 5 Pro? Like
do we know I think for certain there is one? Is that in the leak?
It's not in this leak, but there are leaks that suggest the existence of a PlayStation 5 Pro with a tentative release of this year, like later this year.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just have to
I guess we'll know. But I think that is kind of the Insomniac portion of the leaks, at least the ones that jumped out to me, unless there's anything you guys want to touch on once again. There are some interesting documents that I would encourage maybe you guys to look into. Like they have PowerPoints on game design and what they think about for like these games. So if you're interested in that, feel free to look it up. But we could maybe move on now to the Sony side of things.
This is where some of the sales numbers we were talking about on Discord came from, right?
Yeah. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to post this sales document in our internal chat here so we can speak about it a little more easily. Here we go. There. Okay. So what we have here is the leaked lifetime sales as of, I don't know, maybe like sometime in 2023 or something of PlayStation's exclusives. Okay. So, let me rephrase. Of the PS4 and the PS5 era. So we don't have PS3 and earlier. But I think what we do have is quite interesting. If we look at their highest selling exclusive, to no one's surprise, it's Spider-Man, 2018 Spider-Man with 22.6 million copies sold.
And this is for the year. Oh, this is the highest selling exclusive. Okay, so that's not counting anything on PC. I was going to say, I thought Horizon Zero Dawn was the highest selling. But that's...
We'll get to PC in a minute, because I think that's a very interesting discussion as well.
Yeah.
But Marvel Spider-Man, 22.6 million. God of War PS4, 21 million. Horizon Zero Dawn, 19.3 million, we'll say. Uncharted 4, 18. What's crazy to me is that Uncharted is below Horizon. That is just wild.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't.
But okay, if we look at these Horizon Zero Dawn numbers, it suddenly makes things make a lot more sense, right? Like they're working on a Horizon TV series. They're working on like game boards. Yeah, they're working on all these board games. They're working on all these different Horizon projects, and this is the reason why. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to say what these numbers say to me, like as a person. They say that I am on some level wrong. Like everything that I hate about games is what everybody else loves. Because
that doesn't mean you're wrong. It's just that like you don't have the mainstream tastes.
The top 3 of these are all like unlock tree, craft your tools, like stuff that I just like got really turned off.
To be fair, I think Horizon's the only one that really fits that sort of like craft your tools kind of style.
Yeah,
game, right? Like,
I mean, there's crafting
what all
in
three
God
of these
of War.
are. I mean, like all 3 of these go back to the third-person action adventure,
throw the kitchen sink
heavy
design.
emphasis on narrative style games that Sony really went in on with Uncharted back in the PS3 era.
Yeah.
So we're still seeing the ramifications of that, but
And that's like, but they also have the RPG mechanics, they have the gear, they have the unlock tree.
Yeah, I would say they have light RPG elements. Yeah, I wouldn't call them RPGs.
They're like kitchen sink games. Like they have a little bit of everything. And
they have a little bit of everything, but their main identity is the third-person action-adventure game.
The modern AAA game is the kitchen sink now. Like, you just keep throwing, like... We've just started throwing mechanics at a wall and seeing what sticks, and then if a game nails a mechanic, it's in every single game past that for the next 20 years. That's kind of how it feels.
And that seems to be selling, is what I'm saying with this.
It really is.
So...
Well, I would argue that like that's true for a lot of third parties games, and Sony does do that, but like they have their own flavor, right? Like the narrative focus is what differentiates a Sony game, I think, from like a Ubisoft or an EA game.
Yeah, they're EA and Ubisoft dip their toe in it, but when I boot up a Sony game, I'm expecting a good story, and if I don't get one, I'm pretty upset.
Yeah, but yeah, these numbers, man, like I just. The numbers are always so fascinating to me.
Now, Horizon doing so well is just shocking.
19.2, nearly 20 million. Like if you factor in PC, over 20 million, right? Like,
this is not a game that it's just not on my radar. Like,
it is a game that, in any way. In principle, like if you just described the premise to someone, would sound awesome.
Yeah,
right. Like, I guess if you enjoy sci-fi, but like having a futuristic Earth populated with robot dinosaurs that you hunt. That just appeals to like your 12-year-old, inner 12-year-old. I feel like.
But it's impressive to me that it's like doing so well despite
it's
both
one of Sony's
the Horizon. But it's despite both of the Horizon games having such unfortunate launch times. Like, and it's still
So like a lot of that, like they did have unfortunate launch times, but like part of me wonders like how much like we were just like hyper online for that discussion. Like I don't really think like these numbers are telling us that like while yes, Zelda outsold Horizon, it didn't like cripple Horizon sales by any stretch of the imagination. No.
Yeah, which I just always kind of thought it did.
Yeah, I just think they're too. I mean, obviously there's overlap between those audiences, but they're largely distinct.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Breath of the Wild's audience is just people who play video games. That game sold really well, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild changed the trajectory of the Zelda series.
Yeah.
Like, before Breath of the Wild, Zelda did not sell like that, which is crazy to me, because, like, growing up, and just being, like, I guess familiar with video games, Zelda was always such a huge name. Like, everyone knew what Zelda was, but then when you looked at the Zelda series sales... Like, they were good, but they didn't reflect that kind of level of mainstream...
The legacy,
knowledge that, like, it's, like, people seem to have of the series. But, like, with Breath of the Wild, it finally is. Which is also a fascinating data point to me. Like, when you look at the numbers, it really seems like Zelda was popular just sort of by cultural osmosis. And not, like, actually having, like, tens of millions of people who played those games. But I don't know. But yeah, going back to this list. All right, so Uncharted 4, which is the best-selling Uncharted game. And don't get me wrong, like 18.6 million copies is a lot of copies. A lot of developers would kill for numbers like those. I just feel like I feel like Uncharted is bigger. Like, should be bigger than that. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you... I think you might be. I think Uncharted... All of these games, and you pointed this out to me when I was like... Because I was... just, being an antagonist on Discord a few days ago and comparing these sales numbers to Nintendo's sales numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Uncharted is a niche game in the sense that, like, I could not hand any Uncharted game to someone who doesn't play third-person shooters. Like, they're just not going to know what to do.
Yeah.
Even I, as a kid, when I first got it, and I was like in my teens, but I'd never played a third-person shooter before. It took me a while to come to terms with it, and I was somebody who would push through that. But like, it's not a 2D Mario, It's not, and it's not even Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man
for playing,
plays
I
more
totally
intuitively.
Agree with you. What Uncharted had, and what I think they realized it had and capitalized on it, that filmic quality, right? Like when
Intensely
you play Uncharted,
watchable game,
people stop by and you're like, "What is that?" Right?
No,
and they sit down and watch you play.
No, I was living with a girlfriend when I played Uncharted 4, and it was just like, I wasn't allowed to play it when she wasn't around because she didn't want to miss a moment of it.
No, it totally is that thing.
Like, yeah. And I think Sony makes a couple games like that, you know? Like, The Last of Us is also intensely watchable, I think.
Yeah.
Just a game that focuses on narrative has that property. I wonder if we could go through and watch the very popular Girlfriend Reviews YouTube channel and see them echo what we're saying right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it doesn't, it's a third-person shooter game. Like, it's not...
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to appeal to everybody.
Think Naughty Dog realized that with Uncharted 4, because they started doing this with The Last of Us, where they have, they have difficulty modes that are, the easiest one is literally you just walk through the game, basically. Yeah. So they are trying to capitalize on that audience that, knows these games are good, but, have no interest in actually playing them. They just want to experience the story. And that sort of avenue is sort of leads to the logical conclusion of, hey, we should just make a movie out of this, which they did, right? They made an Uncharted movie, which, as an Uncharted fan, it was kind of just it was like flavorless Jell-O, right? It wasn't. But that's the thing, right? It did hit with audiences. They are making a sequel. So there is something there with Uncharted in terms of, the non-gaming audience, which makes me wonder if and when the next Uncharted project happens, with the movie having come out, will it be even bigger than Uncharted 4?
So my question is, where does this fit with the Last of Us TV series? Because I would genuinely rather watch a show than play a game that doesn't, that I'm skipping half the gameplay. I don't know. I don't know anybody that has played a game that way. I don't think I would ever buy a game to just walk through the world and see the story.
I know you wouldn't. I wouldn't, but
well, I'm wondering who would.
There are people there.
When YouTube exists.
Yeah.
I don't know what the value of holding the controller is at that point when you could watch the story on YouTube or watch a partner or a friend play through the game, which is something I've done plenty of times. I'm just curious. And that could reflect the sales, if there were people that just wanted to see the story, they might have just watched it on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, it seems like Uncharted is in a very interesting position as a series, and what they do next could really determine the course of, is this thing going to blow up or sort of hover around the same numbers?
Yeah.
Because, I think there's some untapped potential there that they need to lean into, but if I knew what that was, I'd be a millionaire working for Naughty Dog, so...
You know what I'm kind of surprised to see so low? Well... No, I'm not. LittleBigPlanet 3 did not set the world on fire. I'd like to see some of the older LittleBigPlanet numbers, I think.
Yeah, right. So this is like a PS4 and onwards type list. So, which,
was kind of dead by then.
It sucks, right? There's some valuable information to be had with those older sales, but we don't have that.
Yeah.
But just going down the list, right? So basically right neck and neck with Uncharted 4, and this is surprising to me, is The Last of Us on PS4. And why is this surprising, do you ask? Because The Last of Us was a PlayStation 3 game.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The PlayStation 4 port of The Last of Us sold as much as Uncharted 4.
That's crazy.
So the true sales of The Last of Us 1, probably, I don't know, if we factor in the PS3 sales?
Some 40,000, yeah.
Yeah, getting close to... At least 30
at
mil,
least.
right?
Yeah.
At least 30 mil.
Yeah,
Let's just put it that
sorry.
way.
These are measured in thousand, and I got confused. Yeah, 30 million. Yeah, that's wild. I didn't think of that. God,
Yeah, and you know what? They released The Last of Us 1 on PlayStation 5 as well. So I don't know. I don't think that.
So that blows out of the water my Uncharted 4's unapproachable theory, because Uncharted 4 is a billion times more approachable than The Last of Us. The Last of Us is it has it has the mode to be easier and stuff.
It does, yeah. But I don't think, I just think Last of Us resonated with more people than Uncharted.
Yeah.
Which I'm saying this as someone Uncharted is my favorite series. I love Uncharted.
Uncharted beats the beats The Last of Us for me every day. But
I love me some Last of Us, don't get me wrong. And especially now with the HBO series being like a massive success.
Yeah, that's like a rewatch for me, probably. And I don't rewatch stuff very often.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'll probably rewatch it before season 2 happens, but yeah. Like, I think even more so now, The Last of Us is positioned to probably be Sony's like biggest IP.
Yeah.
So
it's The Last of Us or Horizon.
When part 3 happens, especially with where like, you know, the TV show, like it's probably going to grow with season 2 as well. Like part 3 has the potential to be like a juggernaut of sales, I think, because like by the time part 3 comes out, and this is speculation, right? Like I would imagine season 2 will have covered the events of The Last of Us part 2. So part 3 will be the only way for people to continue the story. Because right now, like if someone's really interested, like someone who doesn't play video games, right? Like they're like, hey, I really like The Last of Us show on HBO. I'm just going to go on YouTube or something and watch like a clip compilation or a cutscene compilation of everything in The Last of Us Part 2. And then I basically know what happens next in the story. Because these seasons are not going to deviate from the games, right? Like they'll enhance the stories in some respects and explore maybe more side characters, but the overall plot is going to be the same. So right now, there's an easy way for people to see what happens next in The Last of Us. But with The Last of Us 3, if they set up the timing correctly, like this game could launch, and the only way to know what happens next is to get the game. So I don't know. Could be an interesting sort of like setup here with The Last of Us.
Yeah.
But moving down the list, Gran Turismo Sport 13 mil. So Gran Turismo has always been a massive seller on PlayStation. It's just that I'm totally sort of divorced from that world, so I don't really talk about it like a much. Game, but like each one that releases sells like over 10 mil copies, which is a juggernaut of a series.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I have much more to say about that. But next on the list, Uncharted Collection, 10 mil, 9.98, right? So again, this is an interesting number to me because this is the PS4 collection of the first 3 Uncharted games. Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 were originally on PlayStation 3. So Uncharted as a series has probably sold like dozens of millions of copies.
They gave away the Uncharted collection at one point too, I'm pretty sure.
They did. Yeah.
So I wonder what impact that has on this.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it's that is added to these sales because it would be a much higher number. But it would affect the long tail of it. Because I think I had the Uncharted collection. I've never played it, but I'm pretty sure I had it.
Yeah.
I've played the games just on PS3.
But yeah, it is fascinating to me looking at these PS4, I guess, versions of the PS3 games selling as high as they do. Because you would think that the PS3 versions sold even much more than that, right? Like, just by virtue of it being like a remastered version.
I don't know, because gaming blew up in the PS4 generation in a way that it hadn't to me before. Like, I knew a lot of people that had a PS3 and Xbox 360. I feel like everyone I knew had a PS4. Like,
yeah,
the PS4 just sold like mad. So, I don't know. I wonder if that affected. I wonder how many people got a PS4 and we're playing catch up here. I doubt that many people double dipped. Well, I don't doubt that many people. I doubt, I certainly not more than half.
Not more than half, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this next one's very interesting to me. Bloodborne, 7.65 million copies.
That just feels right to me.
That's, I mean, now our perspective is sort of skewed by Elden Ring, but these are massive numbers for a Souls-like game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like, Dark Souls... Well, you know what? Let's just do it. So let's see Dark Souls sales numbers. The series of Dark Souls has sold 35 million, but let's see. The first Dark Souls game sold 2.37 million units in 18 months.
But this is Bloodborne's lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Bloodborne's lifetime. Elden Ring, on the other hand, by February 23, it had sold over 20 million copies.
Wow.
So Elden Ring really it did for the Soul series what Breath of the Wild did for the Zelda series, basically.
Elden Ring was special. Bloodborne had the Bloodborne's like initial sales. Well, I don't know if this helped it or hurt it. PS4s were not selling super great, I don't think, when Bloodborne first came out, because there just weren't that many games on the platform yet. I think a lot of people jumped on the PS4 later, and I don't know if they all went back to play it.
Yeah, there was insane word of mouth around Bloodborne, though.
Yeah,
like, everyone was saying, like, you've got to play Bloodborne.
There's still insane word of mouth around Bloodborne.
There is, yeah. Which
a lot of Souls fans
like
have never played
right?
it.
With 7+ million copies sold, I think that's absolutely enough to warrant like a remaster or something. Simply because
they're crazy.
The furor around Bloodborne has not died online. If only it's gotten stronger, where people are like, where's the Bloodborne remake, remaster, whatever. So I feel like it has to be happening. Like, it has to come, because it's just such an easy way for them to capitalize on it. And Sony does own the Bloodborne IP, not From Software. So there's literally no reason. Like, it's baffling to me that it hasn't happened yet. The only thing I would think of is that there's some larger plan for it, but maybe I'm being a conspiracy theorist.
Maybe, yeah. It's crazy that they're not doing it, I feel like.
Yeah.
This sounds like the most normal Bloodborne fan, honestly.
The Bloodborne, yeah.
Like, I don't think it's ever coming back.
It's crazy that it hasn't yet. Especially
I feel like
it feels like every PS4 game's come to the PS5 at this point,
except for Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Except for Bloodborne.
But okay, this next game though, Days Gone, 7.2 million.
I can't believe it sold that well. That's insane.
I'm shocked it sold that well.
Dude, those people must be furious.
The fact that it sold that well, and they were like, "No, you're not doing a sequel."
Oh, that game must have cost a fortune to make. Yeah.
Yeah. Spend was making it for like a decade or something. Yeah. Like, they were making it for so long. So, like, the sales are good, but I guess it just wasn't worth the return on investment.
I'm sure they look at more than sales, though, because that game was critically panned.
Yeah, it was, and Sony games especially are known for having relatively high critic scores, and this one did not. It was kind of ripped apart. And I think rightfully so. Like, I've heard arguments online, like, "Oh, you got to try it after the patches." I did try it, and I was bored out of my mind. Maybe it's just not for me, but like this was a miss for me.
I know that like we hold games to a low standard these days. I should not have to wait for the patch for a first party game. That's insane.
Yeah. So, Days Gone, I'm shocked that it sold this well, quite frankly. Like, that's surprising to me. So there must have been other factors, like you said, the extremely long development time that went into like shelving this IP. But I think it's not like totally shelved, right? Because I believe they're making a Days Gone movie.
That's a mistake.
So I guess maybe they want to have their cake and eat it too. Or they're like, no more games, but like it sold really well, so let's try to do something with it. Which I don't know.
Yeah,
it might just be better to cut and run. You have dozens of other good IPs you could do stuff with.
I saw the writing in that game. That's the only thing I know about it, and it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's sure, make your movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Release it on the right day and people will see it. You know, people get bored and go to the theater. I don't know.
Right. Ratchet and Clank, PlayStation 4, 7 mil. So, I don't know. It's a little... It sold well, right? But, like, Ratchet and Clank ain't doing, like...
This was also supposed to be, like, a big deal. Like, this was it. This was Ratchet and Clank with the movie tie-in.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This was supposed to be their cross-media
This was supposed to be Ratchet and Clank at their peak. But like, I think
you gotta be aware. This is a remake of the first game.
You also, had to... From what I saw, like, you had to kind of have seen the movie for the game to make sense.
I mean, yeah. I don't think... What I heard was it was a direct remake of the first game, which... God, it needed it.
Sorta, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
The movie tie-in stuff genuinely turned me off of it. It made me not want to play it.
It made it less appealing to me as well. Yeah,
but I can't explain that. in any meaningful way.
I do think, and we do need numbers for like historical Ratchet and Clank games, but just based off of the 2 data points on this list, the other one we'll get to later, is that Ratchet and Clank is sadly apparently not as big as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. It's been around for a long, long time.
It sucks to see it doing bad, because one of the things I was going to point out, like, because we were comparing Nintendo's numbers to Sony's, and one of the big things people pointed out to me was, like, Nintendo's going for this mass market appeal. Ratchet and Clank's their series to do it with, you know?
Yeah,
Ratchet and Clank is the series that could appeal to
everyone. Out of
everyone.
all their mascot platformers that they had over the decades, Ratchet and Clank is the one that really stuck around.
Yeah.
Like, Crash died for a while and then went to Activision. Jack and Daxter was there for a while, now it's gone, right? Spyro is gone. Sly Cooper, gone. Like, it's around, but, like, you know, largely irrelevant now. Ratchet and Clank has been around. Yeah. They've been keeping Ratchet and Clank, I don't want to say fresh, but they've been making new games. The games have been pretty good.
Yeah. I don't know what they'd have to do.
People just don't care all that much. Yeah.
I don't know what they'd have to do to make it a Mario competitor, you know?
Yeah. Well, the leaks that for this next Ratchet and Clank game, it certainly sounds a little more ambitious than the previous titles, with like the space exploration and the ship and all of that. So
I don't know. I'm gonna complain without a solution here. I don't think ambition is what's missing. Like, I don't look.
Is it charm? Is it
maybe because I don't look at a Mario game and think of it as more ambitious than Ratchet and Clank. I think it is charm. Like, I think it's...
Yeah.
And it's also, like, just, I mean, name recognition. You know, everybody knows who Mario is.
Oh, wait. Rift Apart's on Steam? Ah.
Yeah.
It came out, I think, last year.
Completely under my radar. I'm going to have to pick it up.
I'm waiting for it to go on sale, because...
it's on sale for 33% off right now.
Oh, I might actually pick that up.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah,
so
not a lot
God
to
of War
say.
3 Remastered, not much to say about that, right? It's another one of those cases where this was a PlayStation 3 game, yet it sold 5.6 million copies on PlayStation 4. So you guys wonder, like, why do we get so many remasters, remakes?
They sell.
This is why. It's basically free money for Sony.
Yeah.
So
this next one makes me sad.
LittleBigPlanet 3, yeah.
Well, not sad.
5.5 million.
That's probably pretty good sales for how much it costs to make.
It's good sales, but like
it also came to PS3. It came to both.
You definitely know, like LittleBigPlanet sells well.
LittleBigPlanet 3 was also
they really wanted to position LittleBigPlanet to be like a Mario competitor. I feel like something
it had
universal, universal appeal. Everyone would recognize Sackboy, but it really didn't seem to get there.
The thing that kills me is that if Sony wants their live service game, this was it. Like, LittleBigPlanet was the IP to make your live service game with, in my opinion. I would play.
I respect Dreams a lot, but
it's not the same thing.
LittleBigPlanet 3 had. LittleBigPlanet as an IP had the Sackboys, right? Like the Sack.
Yeah, it had an aesthetic.
That was really iconic.
It had a musical aesthetic. It had Sackboy. It had this like papercraft like world and everything. No, when I can see a LittleBigPlanet world in my mind. When I see Dreams in my mind, it's like shoddy 3D modeling. Like, you know, it doesn't. That's not to discredit what Dreams is or what Dreams was capable of and what creators
Dreams is
made
very
with
impressive, but in terms of like marketability, it was not anywhere also where it needed to be.
Genuinely hard to just sit down with Dreams and like find anything to play. It was never as easy as with LittleBigPlanet.
So yeah, it's a shame to see. I think LittleBigPlanet 3 sold worse than the first two. Like, I think if we got like LittleBigPlanet's numbers out on PS3, they'd be much higher than this.
I hope so.
100%.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's not a good sign, right? Like, to see sequels selling less well than their
common, but yeah,
counterparts. But, yeah, I don't know, like, quite frankly, I don't know what's going to happen to Media Molecule, right?
Well,
like,
Media Molecule didn't do 3.
Did they not?
It was Sumo Digital.
Oh, I think you might be right, yeah.
It was Sumo.
Wasn't there a LittleBigPlanet 4 as well?
Hold on.
I think you're thinking of Sackboy's Big Adventure.
Yeah, I think Sumo Digital took over the IP after Media Molecule went on to do Dreams, I do believe.
Dude, LittleBigPlanet Vita was also goated. Just gonna shout that out.
Yeah, okay, yeah, Sumo's been working on the IP. Sumo did Sackboy as well.
And there is no LittleBigPlanet 4?
Yeah, there's none right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Sumo Digital right now.
And Sackboy's Big Adventure, for what it's worth, looked fun. It's just not what I want from
that
IP.
It's a decent platformer and co-op game, but like I do think there is an immense amount of potential in LittleBigPlanet. Like
no,
I just
that's
don't
their
know,
Mario competitor. I don't know why
they could do it.
Yeah. That
like,
is
I don't
absolutely.
know I don't know how much longer Media Molecule may be around.
Yeah.
With Dreams.
Yeah,
kind of like floundering.
Dreams was a very expensive flop. Yeah. Not a flop.
That would be a huge shame because they have like one of the most distinctive sort of styles of any first party studio across any publisher, I think.
I agree.
So, wishing the best for them. But
they're working on another game, but it's not going to be Dreams related.
Okay.
They did get a layoff in October of this year, so.
Well, so did everybody else.
Yeah, they laid off 20 employees.
But I really hope to see LittleBigPlanet return and flourish one day.
Yeah.
But, okay, going through Detroit Become Human,
that sounds about right.
5.3 million. That sounds about right, yeah. Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Okay, I do want to highlight this. Uncharted The Lost Legacy, 5.3 million. Uncharted 4, what was it, 18 million?
Yeah, 18.6 million.
Like, I know we've debated this a few times in the past, maybe off the show, but I really think that this is the Nathan Drake effect.
Yeah, well, it's not just the Nathan Drake effect.
Like
Chloe, it was Chloe.
This wasn't
right?
a number. This wasn't a numbered entry in the series. Yeah, so obviously people knew it wasn't like a big game.
It screamed asset reuse to me because it wasn't like that you're driving the Jeep around. It just looked very small. Like I've never played this game. It looked very small to me, but also like Chloe is nothing to me. Like she's such. I don't know. She just did not make an impression.
If it had been Elena,
oh my god, I'd have bought it instantly.
Been way more interested.
I'd have bought
Chloe
Elena.
is not one of the more interesting characters, in my opinion.
I'd have bought for Sully too, although I don't know.
Yeah, Sully for sure.
I don't know. That it'd have to be a very different game for it to be Sully.
But yeah, like just comparing contemporaries.
Yeah,
because there's a comparison here. 5.3 million for Lost Legacy. Miles Morales over 10 million.
Yeah.
So like.
Well, wait, what did Spider-Man sell? Is that on here? Where, yeah, 22
Spider-Man's
million to 11 million. Yeah, so it didn't do what, it did not do the best.
So I
numbers.
do think that, like, again, we're back to the point, like, the future of Uncharted has to be decided with great care, because I feel like it could go meteorically up or down from this point.
The problem is Uncharted, like, you say the Nathan Drake effect, and I agree on some part, but it's not Nathan Drake specifically. It is that when I pick up an Uncharted game, I want a bombastic, joking protagonist, and Chloe never gave me those vibes.
I mean, they kind of tried to make her that with because I played Lost.
Well, I didn't play the game, so
yeah, like so she was like wisecracking and stuff, but like it just wasn't the same, like. So, I don't know.
She doesn't have the same riz that Nathan has.
Yeah, Nathan had insane riz.
Insane bonkers riz. He's got that goofy riz.
But yeah, no, these numbers are very interesting, right? Because, like, I think Sony has to look at these numbers and be like, okay, do we make a Drake game? Or do we try and, like, really capture his energy and make some sort of spin-off. But I do think, especially with the Tom Holland Uncharted movies, they've got to return to Drake and just like go earlier in his life or something like that. But we shall see. All right. Next, Infamous Second Son, 5.3 million.
That one hurts me.
In my opinion, I thought Second Son was a clear step down from Infamous and Infamous 2.
I liked it aesthetically, but I never played any of them.
I'd be willing to wager Infamous 1 and 2 sold way more than this.
Yeah, I think
but we don't have that data.
I mean, you stop following Cole in Second Son. You get
right, and Cole was way more interesting than Delson.
Infamous Second Son also, from what I've heard, had a serious writing problem. Like it is like
it was not as good.
It's the poster child of playing the villain means you get bad writing. Like. Because doesn't he just kill his family if you play them?
No, like, the whole shtick about Infamous games is that you could either be a superhero or a supervillain. And the story kind of, like...
Yeah, and if you choose to be a villain, he
either.
Kills his family. Like, why? That doesn't make any sense. That's not what a villain does.
The story, characters, writing as a whole, were a clear step down from Infamous 2 to Second Son.
That game had style. Like, it looks good.
It looks fantastic.
I remember
and the
wanting
smoke
it when it
powers
came
look
out.
really
Yeah.
good. But yeah, Infamous as an IP kind of just disappeared after this. So I hope that
Who
they
makes
did
this?
have they did
Sucker
have
Punch.
First Light, Sucker Punch, because they started doing Ghost of Tsushima, which just blew it out of the water. Yeah. Okay, let's finish off here. Death Stranding. Driveclub, 4.97 million. Driveclub. I guess it just couldn't hang with Gran Turismo. I know, like, Driveclub has like a very hardcore, dedicated fan base. Like, if you're a Driveclub fan, you're still playing Driveclub to this day. But the studio who made
Where
it
all
doesn't
my
even exist
Driveclub
anymore.
fans
So
at?
not here.
No.
Death Stranding.
Shocked to see it this low.
4.38. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it didn't sell more.
This
Also,
is
always forget it's a PlayStation exclusive. Like,
it was, yeah. And then Until Dawn, 4 million. Until Dawn is a great game. Again, 4 million isn't bad, but I think it should have sold more.
Is that the
It's
Corey
like that-
guys?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably a great game.
Okay. So moving on, right? So those were all like fiscal year 2020 titles. Now, if we look at 2021 titles, like we mentioned earlier, Miles Morales, 11.1 million copies. So same sort of interstitial style game as Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, but did way, way better. And obviously Insomniac is looking at that and being like, there is a huge opportunity for us to make these sort of 8 to 10 hour middle games and make a ton of money. And low resource, high return on investment type projects. And that's certainly what Venom is going to be as well. Next on the list, Last of Us Part 2, 10.3 million copies. So 10 million.
Is this only
sold
physical
great.
copies?
No, I don't think so.
Well, see, Horizon Zero Dawn on PC doesn't have any copies sold.
There's a different list we're going to look at for
okay.
PC. But yeah, Last of Us 2, notably, I think, sold less than Part 1. And I think that is in large part due to the leaks that hit right before the game came out, in large part due to the controversy that was generated by those leaks, and then a large part in due to a lot of people angrily online saying things that were...
Okay, so this list does include digital sales because it has a percent of digital sales.
Digital percent.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think for a mixture of factors, The Last of Us 2 did not sell as Part 1. Even though 10 million is still like a really good number.
It also... it got remastered on PS5.
It's not out yet, though. It'll be out in a couple weeks, actually.
It has a PS5 version, right?
No. You can play the PS4 version on PS5.
Oh, okay.
There's no PS5. The remastered version or whatever is happening in a few weeks.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Next up, Ghost of Tsushima, 7.6 million copies. Insane number for a new IP.
Yeah.
So like very, very clear as to why Sucker Punch was just like, okay, we're done with Infamous and we're just gonna focus on Ghost of Tsushima now.
Well, here's why they're not remaking Bloodborne.
Demon Souls remake, 2 million copies.
Yeah.
So these are only the PlayStation numbers, and we'll look at the PC numbers. It won't be that much more impressive.
Demon Souls not on PC.
Oh, is it not?
No, that's
okay. So this is PS5 only.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, is this
2 million isn't
like,
bad?
2 million
but it's not.
Isn't bad, but it
doesn't scream. Let's remake Bloodborne. Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, Demon Souls is like the worst Souls game, probably. Like, I don't know if that's true of the remake, but stuff was
the remake
unrefined.
They kept everything mechanically. They only gave it like a very significant visual upgrade.
Yeah, but compared to like, even Dark Souls 1, like Demon Souls is a little unrefined. I think some of that's charming personally, but
I do find it. Yeah, and playing it, I enjoyed playing it immensely. Like, is it as good of a game as Dark Souls? No, but like it's a great game.
Dude,
still.
I love a game with a hub world and a level select. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I've never moved on from it.
But yeah, 2 million, like, especially in the light of like Elden Ring, does seem underwhelming.
Yeah.
But again, Demon Souls is another one where this is Sony's IP. Right? Like, Demon Souls and Bloodborne are Sony's IP that were made by from Software. So if they really wanted to, they could do like a Demon's Souls 2 or something and make it more in line with like modern From design philosophies. But I kind of doubt we'll ever see that.
Yeah.
Next, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, 1.5 million.
That seems right. Yeah, that was a lower budget game, I think.
Lower budget. They also sold it for lower, I believe.
Yeah.
And not really. It's like a fine.
1.5 million is respectable for that sort of game, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, selling 1 million copies of anything is really impressive.
Is really good. Yeah. Predator Hunting Grounds, which I don't even know. Like, why is this on here? Is this a PlayStation exclusive?
Looks like it.
Okay,
and it sold 830,000 copies.
I don't know anything about it, so I have nothing
Predator
else.
Hunting Grounds is by the same studio that does these asset flip 4v asymmetric multiplayer games. I think they did one for Ghostbusters too.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to cap off this list, we have Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, 2.72 million. Again, showing that Ratchet & Clank is not as, I guess, big as I thought it was. Because while 2.7 million, like on paper, is an impressive number, for something like Ratchet & Clank, I feel like it should sell more.
Yeah.
MLB The Show, 21, 1.78 million. These games always sell well. They're like the premier baseball games. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, 1.8. Really? So this isn't even a remake. This is a remaster that they just released on PS5, and it sold almost 2 mil additional copies.
I mean, I bet it's just people that didn't play the original, mostly. Like,
but still, that really shows the power of, like, because these remasters do, like, obviously they take work, but they won't take that much work, right? Not as much work as a remake or anything like that. But for it to generate that kind of return for something that seemingly doesn't take that much effort, I feel like that's why we get these remasters.
Let's go Returnal.
Returnal, 1 million. So this doesn't surprise me, right? Like 1 million, good for Returnal. Returnal is not the type of, like, Returnal is not a mainstream game. Let's just put it that way.
No, Returnal I mean, for a roguelike to sell 1 million copies is pretty good. And that's not an easy one, you know? Like, I would put it harder than Hades. It's not an easy one, and it's very... It's so, like, it's a sci-fi horror game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a genre most people would be into. That's not PC sales for it either. That's only PS5. So that's awesome that it did that well. I love Returnal. I gotta finish it sometime. I never did, which is a little embarrassing.
I mean, you know, things come out.
That game must have made a fortune, though, to sell 1 million copies, because I mean, it just looking at it, there's a lot of, like, tasteful, very, very tasteful asset reuse. Like, a lot of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I think 1 million for Returnal, like, obviously everything is game specific. For Returnal, 1 million is excellent. Yeah. And I'm sure Sony was pleased with that as well. And Housemarque really cemented themselves as, like, a GOAT developer at this point.
To see their next game.
Yeah, whatever they do next, I'm there for. All right, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves. So this is the Uncharted 4, Uncharted Lost Legacy bundle on PlayStation 5 with, like, graphical enhancements, whatever. $569K. I'm sure most people already played through Uncharted on 4. So, but again, another remaster. Death Stranding remaster, $335K. Same sort of scenario. Okay, so those are the sales numbers we got from this leak for many of the first-party PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 games. Any final thoughts on those? All right, next,
I think that makes sense. Yeah,
I kind of wanted to touch on the PC sales, because I think this also tells a really interesting story.
Is this a different chart?
This is a different chart, and let me pull that out for you here. What happened?
Also, is the net sales column, this is their net profit? What is net sales?
Let's see here.
Like, it's on the far right. I see 145 million for Ratchet and Clank.
Where do you see net sales? Sell-in, sell-through, net sales.
I don't know what net sales means. Like, does that mean Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart made $145 million? Because that seems low.
Yes, I believe so. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart turned a profit, but not much of one.
Well, $145 million is not a small amount of money.
But if so let's compare it to Spider-Man here, right? So if we look at Spider-Man...
Yeah, Spider-Man made 800
like half
million.
$1 billion.
Yeah, in 827 million on PS4. Spider-Man 1. So. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's pretty profitable.
But yeah, just in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to this next chart here. Yeah. Which I'm like annoyed at myself because I had it open and now I don't know how to find it. So just FYI, there were some additional documents leaked on like Guerrilla Games and Bluepoint, which were kind of interesting. Not really going to touch on those. There was concept art for Bluepoint's next game, Bluepoint being like the remake studio, but they're doing an original title next and it looks somewhat interesting. But concept art, right? Like you can't really glean too much from that. Okay, PlayStation Studios Steam sales. So I'm going to send this to you guys. All right. So my first takeaway when looking at these numbers is that this explains why Sony isn't really bothered with releasing day and date on PC. Because they're not, in the grand scheme of things, all that impressive.
What can I tell you? They'd be doing a lot better if they would release day and date with PC. I think this says a lot more about their strategy than it does whether or not people would buy these games.
Okay, but maybe that's what they're thinking, right? Like, I guess they just won't know until they try it. Is it like they might be thinking like the PC audience maybe just doesn't have much of an overlap?
They're so wrong.
With the PlayStation
that's just
audience.
Not true. I mean, we could look at Xbox's sales. I know they're literally just smaller, but we could look at what happens to Xbox games when they release day and date with PC and probably get a good picture of what would happen to these. But everybody, Horizon Zero Dawn 2020, 3 years later, anybody who wanted to play this game had already played it.
Right.
And it still sold 3.3 million.
That's okay. So let's just get into it, right? Their best-selling PC game is Horizon Zero Dawn. So sold 3.3 million on PC.
Also their oldest. I don't even know if that's fair to say. Like, on some level,
it's also their oldest, but like it's gonna make most of its sales like in the first few months it's out, right?
Maybe, but on some level, all that this is long tail sales. Like, it doesn't have that launch day boost. Not really. Like, I mean, it does probably, but
that's interesting that you went that way because I really just when I first saw this, I went the opposite way. I was like, oh, this is the reason why that they're looking at PC as more of a supplemental, I guess, source of income, at least for now, right? Until they can like grow their PC audience. But like,
no, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot here by waiting so long because these games are not God of War. Like, I played it when it came out, but it was not exciting anymore by the time it came to PC. Like, this number would be massive if it was day and date on PC, I think. I bet you could 4X it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think you have more of a pulse on the PC audience than I do, so maybe you're right.
Because PC is just, people play games on PC. There is no, like, PlayStation audience versus PC audience. People play video games on PC.
No, well, I do feel like that, people play games on PC, people play games on PlayStation, but these games, right, like, I really feel like they're a specific kind of game, and that if you're really interested in them, you'd probably play them on PlayStation. But if you're not, and it's just like, okay, maybe this is just another game I pick up on sale or something like that.
Well, I think by waiting, they're guaranteeing, like, okay, like, oh, I've already waited 2 years for God of War. Why don't I wait 3 more months for it to only be $30? Like,
yeah,
they're killing themselves with this, and it's.
I do think maybe what they might try is like, okay, let's release a game 6 months, after it releases on PlayStation and see how that impacts the sales numbers. And if they go up, maybe they'll be like, okay, maybe we can try a date and date release and see if that significantly changes the PC sales numbers.
Yeah.
But no, I think right now they're totally content with PC just being like a second wind of sorts for games that have already kind of gone through their sales life cycle on PlayStation.
I just feel like they're totally disregarding hype cycle in that, which, like, I hate to say it, hype cycle.
They do matter.
It's like 80% of why I buy a game sometimes. Like, it's the only reason I bought Diablo 4. I hate that game. Like, but I bought it because of the hype. Like, if I had been in a position where Diablo 4 had been unavailable to me and 2 years later, they're like, oh, here's a crumb, idiot. Like, no, I'm not going to buy that. Like, It's stupid. It's crazy. Now, I do think it would lower their console sales a little bit. Like, I don't know how much. It's impossible to say.
See, I think that's what they're really afraid of.
Yeah.
Like, because so much of their, I guess, economy is built off that console. Unlike the others. Well, that's not fair. Nintendo's is as well. Unlike Xbox, right? Like, that's the real big difference between Xbox and PlayStation.
I just don't understand. They cannot be making that much money off of selling a PlayStation console. Like, it just doesn't.
But another thing you have to factor in, right? Like, they sell a PlayStation console to someone. They have PS Plus. They could sign up for PS Plus. They buy games on the PlayStation Store, so there's no Steam cut for these first-party games.
I mean, they could release a PlayStation Store. People would download it. Like, Xbox did it, you know? Xbox has their own store. And through Game Pass, that's how I play Xbox games. Like, I don't buy any of those on Steam. They could not release on Steam. They're not a small indie company. They could figure it out, you know?
Yeah. And I do think one day, perhaps soon even, within the next 5 years, I'd expect to see a PlayStation app on PC. Like, that just seems the way things are going.
Yeah.
So
it's just insane to me.
I just think, yeah, these are interesting numbers. No matter how you choose to interpret them, I think they're fascinating numbers.
I mean, 1.3 million for Miles Morales on PC versus
let's just go down the list.
11 million
right?
on console.
Yeah,
like that is not people that's not people not wanting to play Spider-Man Miles Morales. I refuse to believe that. You know, that just doesn't make sense.
So I'm just going to roll down this list really quick. So Horizon Zero Dawn, 3.3 million.
The wrong number.
God of War, 2.5 million. Days Gone, 1.7 million, which is crazy to me. Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, 1.3 million. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, 480,000. Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, 450,000. Sackboy, 62,000.
You could never in a million years convince me that 450,000 is like a fair sales number for Spider-Man Miles Morales when it sold 11 million on console. Like, they shot it in the foot with their release. Like, that's the only possible explanation for sales being this low. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, the hype cycle does matter, right? Like, people want to play a game. Like, for instance, let's just take me and Alan Wake 2. Like, we're only like a couple days into 2024, but I'm already thinking in my head, like, maybe I'll play Alan Wake 2 later in the year.
Yeah, you'll wait for it to go on sale. You'll get to it when you get to it. Yeah.
So, like, I was like seconds away from like buying it, like in December.
Yeah.
So you have a valid point.
When they're not new, like even Spider-Man 2, like I was itching for it months ago. I still want to play it, but like I don't care anymore. I'll get to it when I get to it. Maybe I probably won't buy it the day it comes out on PC. I'll probably wait for it to go on sale.
I really think that it may be just Sony being afraid of upsetting the status quo, which is working well for them.
That's fair.
And just ever so slightly testing the PC market, right? Like, I think this is a slow sort of integration process with PlayStation and PC.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of like upsetting the status quo too much, but I do think we'll get more games on PC from PlayStation. I do think eventually we'll get a shorter time between release on PlayStation and release on PC. But I think until they see numbers that are compelling to them, they won't want to take that next step.
I just don't think they ever will, the way they're doing it.
Unless they just try. Yeah, I don't know.
These numbers are not, I mean, they're high enough that I would continue to port games, right? Like,
right.
They're
like
paying
that's
for
why it makes
themselves,
sense
but
having like Nixxes to do this kind of work, because at the end of the day, it can't be too much work, and you know some of these are selling multiple millions of copies.
But I just don't think. I think you would dramatically increase sales on PC and not significantly lower sales on PlayStation to do a day and date release. I don't know. I can't say it for sure because obviously I'm saying something that would be good for me. No one can say
it for sure. Yeah.
But I can't imagine. I mean, Spider-Man Remastered. What did it sell on PS5? I'm trying to find it right now. I can't find Spider-Man Remastered on here.
So it might be outside of our time frame here because like this list isn't too comprehensive, but
there was obviously,
yeah,
people were hungry for it. I can't believe Days Gone sold 2 million copies on PC. That's insane.
Yeah, Days Gone resonated with the PC audience.
Yeah, apparently
for some reason.
I think it was just one of the early... There
is something there. Like,
I think Days Gone and Horizon Zero Dawn were interesting. I think a lot of people bought those like almost to tell Sony they wanted PlayStation games on PC. But I don't know.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, I guess just to sort of sum up this discussion, like, we don't usually have access to data like this, and it sucks that it took like a devastating leak that like could potentially ruin people's lives to get this information out there, but this information does tell some interesting stories.
I have troubling news.
What's up?
Sackboy: A Big Adventure released day and date on PC.
Okay.
And it sold 1.5 million on PS5, PS4, PS5, and 60,000 on PC.
In theory, that should destroy your argument.
Yeah, it should.
But the thing is, Sackboy is not the typical Sony first-party game.
It also, like Sackboy
people aren't itching for Sackboy. There's no hype cycle around Sackboy.
Sackboy had
so I feel like the story would be different.
Like the competition for a cute 3D platformer was non-existent on PS5, and there's a million of those on Steam.
Right? Like,
yeah.
If this was Uncharted 5, it would look different, Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
so it's
I think we're agreeing.
Tough,
Yeah, like Sackboy had no competition on PS5. There weren't that many games in general at the time. This was like November 2020, and it had a ton of competition on Steam. It was up against like A Hat in Time. It was up against Ukulele. It was up against, all these games that are excellent 3D platformers.
Yeah.
Plus, indies, I don't actually, 2020 was a long time ago, but it does hurt my argument though.
Thing I want to touch on, because we've been going extraordinarily long. So there was one other leak that I found very interesting, and it was a sort of presentation on Sony's view of the, gaming industry, specifically the Microsoft purchase of Activision Blizzard. And despite what some people were saying that like, oh, they don't care, they do care quite a lot, right? Like,
I'm sure, yeah.
Like, they're very scared of this. So I'm just going to read some of this verbatim, just because I think it's good to hear exactly what they're thinking. Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard for $69 billion could disrupt and threaten console gaming and game subscription markets. Console, shift from PS to Xbox with timing and in-game differential as the weapons. Subscription, Microsoft's comprehensive ecosystem coupled with exclusivity creates greater dominance. Massive threat to PlayStation Plus. Upwards of 1.5 billion annual revenue threat. 45 million subs times $12 monthly times 12 months times 20% multiplayer third party. So what they're saying is that they're just saying in a nutshell that like they think Call of Duty will drive people away from PlayStation 2, Xbox, which sucks that like that's the world we live in. But we saw, even with Modern Warfare 3, even with how bad it was, even with how bad the perception around it was,
best-selling game of the year.
Yeah. So like, at this point, Call of Duty is untouchable. That's just a fact I think we have to accept. And it does suck that the industry has to react to Call of Duty, but that's just the world we live in, right? So,
yeah, I think it really sucks that like a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 can come out, or Modern Warfare 3. I'm not going to besmirch the name of the actual good games. And can be an absolute dumpster fire, basically just a flip. Like a 6 months, hey, here's a game that we put together in 6 months. And it'll still sell more than any decent game that's ever released this year.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is, right, like, the casual market drives most of the money in this industry. And the casual market is buying Call of Duty and Madden and maybe, like, another game and, like, nothing else every year.
Yeah.
That's why it's super disingenuous for like game of the year votes and people reacting. Like, people played this, and it just tells that like the majority of gamers don't play more than like 1 or 2 games a year.
No, what's really messed up about it is that there are so many. Like, it's so common. You'll see on Twitter and on TikTok, I imagine, because I'm pretty sure most of it on Twitter is taken from TikTok. It'll be people that only play Madden and Call of Duty making these, massively popular social media posts about how gaming is creatively bankrupt and like, or gaming is dead. It's just not fun anymore. And it's like, play anything, dude. Yeah. Like, you literally chose the games and you made the worst possible choices. Like,
at least
gaming is not dead.
I think AAA is creatively bankrupt, but like indie, anywhere below AAA, there's a plenty of creativity left.
There's a lot of creativity in AAA. It's just, Call of Duty doesn't have to be creative.
I mean, we just have to.
That's just something we disagree on, but
yeah.
But yeah, Call of Duty isn't it? We can all agree on that.
Yeah, it isn't it.
But I just wanted to read a couple more of these bullet points. So, Leapfrog, Activision. They're talking about Xbox leapfrogging PlayStation. Activision provides incredible strategic value across live service games, scale in mobile, and PC storefront with Battle.net.
What?
What?
Battle.net is a tumor. That is not. No one likes it.
No one uses it. Everyone, like, they were putting Call of Duty games on there for a little bit, and no one voluntarily used it. So they put it back on Steam, and all of a sudden, these games are selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, what an insane misinterpretation of reality.
Jeez.
So let me continue. Sorry. Microsoft can supply multi-game subscriptions, 50% console. Multi-game. It sucks that this is kind of like a, this is a present PowerPoint, so it's not like full thoughts. But console games 50%, PC 60%, game subscription 50%. So I guess they're just saying that like they can put their games a bunch of places very easily or something.
Yeah.
With their subscriptions. But Sony's pillars are dated and behind the competition, I think, in terms of subscriptions, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
And Sony needs to expand. That was their final bullet point here. And then their last thing, they sort of did a mini analysis on the elusive perfect game subscription. So the expectation of free best-in-class games creates an unsustainable market or model for PlayStation. So what they're saying is they can't do Game Pass because
their games cost $200 million to make.
Well, that's a part of it, but they're just not as rich as Microsoft. Yeah. Not even close, right? Yeah. So Microsoft can foot the bill for Game Pass, but Sony can't. Monthly and incremental subs won't cover their investment. Unified mobile PC console experiences doesn't exist. Form factor and computer power are too diverse for this to happen. Sony's impact premium sales model is their central approach. So what they're saying, I think, is that they want to really double down on their model of like having premium AAA games that they sell to drive their console, drive their business. And they don't really want to try and create a Game Pass competitor because it's just not a viable business strategy for them.
I think that's fine. I think that's...
So, I think that makes sense for them. I just think it was really interesting that, like... And obviously, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They're going to talk about it. But, like, just seeing what they think of Microsoft and Call of Duty, and they see it as a major threat. They're scared, right? And I feel like... I don't want to think it was too reactionary, but I do feel like the purchasing of Bungie was in anticipation of something like this.
I think so,
where
too.
Microsoft is using their money to basically disrupt the industry, where like you have to respond, right? Because if they just sit there and do nothing while Microsoft makes all their moves, like Microsoft will leapfrog them. So Sony's trying to find a way to sort of compete with that. So final data point I wanted to bring up. I just thought it was interesting seeing things from their perspective. So, any thoughts on that?
No, I think they're right. There is one other data point I saw that I'd kind of like to bring up. Marvel Spider-Man 2 cost twice as much. Or no, I think Spider-Man Remastered maybe cost twice as much to make as the original. Is one of the...
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Spider-Man Remastered?
It might not have been... It was either Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Remastered. I think Spider-Man 2 cost twice as much. I think 2 makes
way more sense, right? I think because Remastered is just like a 60 FPS update, basically.
Yeah, I don't think it was, though. I think it cost a lot more than you think.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, those prices got leaked as well. It's just not in my current slate of documents, so I don't have them. But if you guys can find them,
Spider-Man Remastered was only $40 million to make, which is a lot for a remaster, like a crazy amount. But Spider-Man 2 cost $315 million to make.
Yep.
Versus
checks out.
So it was twice as much as Spider-Man 1. It didn't need to be. Like, the only thing I can say, like, Sony, like, you could have made 80% as much money for 50% as much investment. Like,
I agree with you. It didn't need to be, but there are a couple things I want to point out, right? Like, I think what is the cost of game development largely, right? Like, it's paying your developers, right?
Yeah.
And developers have become, especially developers for these AAA games, have become very sought after commodities, right? Like, their salaries are going up and up and up because, especially for developers on games like Sony's first party games or games like extremely successful live service games like Fortnite, these developers are super in demand. So they can command some pretty high salaries that are getting even higher and higher. And I think that's a major factor in driving up game development costs as well.
I think it is largely like time and like these games take too long to make. They take too many people to make. I'm not saying get rid of Spider-Man. I'm saying like Nintendo does not have the same manpower on Super Mario Odyssey that Sony has on Spider-Man 2. Like, and they're making a fortune because of it. You know, there's just value in they've created this pointless, in my opinion, arms race of bigger, more bombastic, and it's not a bad thing to have those qualities, but it's not what makes a great game. You know, I
agree.
It's not the only thing that can make a great game. Like, I think Sony should look at what Housemarque, is that what they're called?
Housemarque.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should look at what they were able to do on what could not have been
Returnal.
that kind of budget, you know? And like scale that up a little, or more, do more of it, you know, more releases like that. It is,
I don't know.
And they had internal documents talking about how unsustainable it is in
it
Insomniac.
Yeah. But to an extent, I feel like this is a bed Sony has maybe made for themselves because, like, while I wouldn't mind, like, and I in fact encourage more smaller scale games. I have said on the show that I really enjoy the big bombastic AAA games, and I think it's fine for them to exist, but maybe not as like the primary kind of game they put out, right? Like, I would be more than fine with Miles Morales style games, Uncharted Lost Legacy style games. Like, give me more of those.
Yeah.
But I think to an extent, like, maybe I'm not in the majority there, in that, like, I think the Sony core fan now expects stuff like this. And I think they might be afraid that if they start going back in terms of, like, for lack of a better term, like AAA production quality, like they would start getting hammered by their fans. It is
very difficult to turn back on now that they've let that cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a mistake that to continue down this path. It is, you know, we're going to get to the point where they're spending $1 billion on a game. And when
how much do you think GTA 6 cost?
That's going to be over $1 billion, right?
I think estimates are pegging it around $2 billion.
Yeah. And
which is just insanity.
Yeah.
Complete insanity.
And you're not going to feel that when you play it. I promise you're not going to feel $2 billion when you play, you know. Because you don't feel $315 million when you play Spider-Man 2. I refuse to believe that you do. Like, I
don't, like, I hear what you're saying, but, like, I don't know what $350 million is supposed to feel like.
It should feel like a whole lot more than $150 million, you know? And it should feel like a lot more.
It's just I think a little more complicated of a discussion because, like, as the decades go by, game development costs do go up. Inflation is a thing.
Inflation is a thing, but that is not. I mean, when two games 5 years apart have a 2x, like, the inflation's not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that inflation is the main culprit for that. I'm just saying that, like, things are going to be more and more expensive, and at a certain point, we're going to hit a point where there are going to be issues and sustainment issues specifically, but like,
and it's not just Sony doing this. Like, some of the reason those game developers are so sought after and so expensive is because this industry kills people. It drives anybody who wants to be, and that's why the best games that came out this year, Nintendo, over a 98% retention rate. Larian, I don't know, but it's pretty good. Like, what else? Armored Core, gotta imagine FromSoft's retention rate's pretty good. These people...
When you say retention rate, you mean their employees?
Employee retention,
there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as in, these people are staying in the industry long enough to have the experience to be these superstar developers, because nobody just is that. They get the opportunity to become it, and we're not giving that to people. That's why Call of Duty sucks. They're not giving anybody an opportunity to be good at making a Call of Duty game. They're churning these people out and firing them like all the time. You hear about it constantly, the way Activision Blizzard treats its employees.
Unrelated. Well, somewhat related, but like, did you guys see on Twitter those Call of Duty devs speaking out about Bobby Kotick after he left?
Oh my god,
saying that he made their games worse?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Horrible. Like, and I imagine that's not uncommon. Executives genuinely, they don't do anything. It's not a real job. Like, they're just rubber stampers. I saw somebody on Twitter trying to give Bobby Kotick credit for greenlighting Overwatch. He had to greenlight everything. That's his only job. Like,
I'm Twitter guy. Bobby Kotick did not come up with Overwatch. I hope you don't think that.
No, his job is to watch PowerPoints and make the decision that someone else probably already made for him. And every time he doesn't do that, he messes something up. Like, just a waste of hundreds of millions of dollars. What a loser.
Man. But yeah, I think this is a good way to start off 2024 with like a really kind of behind the curtain style peek at one of the biggest game makers in the world.
Yeah.
So, sucks that, again, hearts go out to Insomniac employees. Hopefully they're protected against all the craziness coming their way.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to talk about what we're playing?
Honestly, I haven't really played anything.
Yeah, I haven't either. I've been super busy. It was already a long episode.
All right. Well, I have one, but I'll try to keep it brief.
Okay.
So I've been playing God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. So I finally dove into that free
I want to hear about this
roguelike mode they released. So it is in fact a roguelite, not a roguelike.
Not interested.
So yeah, Connor instantly throws it in the trash. But I think it's really good. I do prefer roguelites, I think, to roguelikes. So maybe that's a preference type thing. But the other reason it really is good is that it truly is a follow-up from the story of God of War Ragnarok. Like, it just straight up just picks up where the story ends. And it's not to say that like major, and I don't know yet because I haven't finished it, but like major crazy story events don't happen. But it's more of a fleshing out and a continuation of Kratos' character development, which is crazy to me that it's not in the main game. Like, obviously it's all in the same game, right? But it's not like
a lot of people aren't going to play this. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm getting at, right? Like, but there is a lot of character development in this sort of add-on, and a lot of connecting threads to the Greek trilogy of games too, which is just wild.
Interesting.
Because I feel like this character development should have probably happened in the main game, but like it's all happening in this roguelite mode. And there are definitely some insane surprises in there for people who played the original games, like before the 2018 reimagining.
Yeah.
So from a story perspective, absolutely worth playing if you're invested in Kratos' story and if you are a fan of the old God of War games. As a roguelite mode itself, I'm having a lot of fun with it. So Connor, I know you said that like the less time you spend in menus, the better. I'm happy to report that the armor is all cosmetic in the roguelite. So like,
okay, you're bringing me back.
You can get new armor and stuff, but the only effects it has is cosmetics. You could just make Kratos look however you want to look.
Okay.
So the way it works is in traditional roguelike fashion, right? You enter a room, clear it, and then in the first room, you have to make a very critical choice. Because in the first room, you open the chest, you can select one of 3 upgrades. And the upgrades will be either for your axe, for the blades, or for the mysterious third weapon that I will not spoil because Connor has not played this game yet.
Yeah. I could never guess what it is.
But, so you select which one you want to upgrade, and these upgrades are sort of random, right? But, like, which one you pick sort of defines your run, right? So if you pick the axe, the subsequent changes you have will largely be for your axe. Now, that's not to say you can't get blades or the other weapon, but like your axe will be your main thing for this run.
So this feels like pretty Hades so far.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too, right?
Which is great. Because it's a great model.
Yeah. So let's say you pick the axe, you go into the next room, you clear it, you can not select, but like you eventually get to the point where you can select which room to go in, right? Similar to Hades. And it'll tell you with a little symbol above the room, like what kind of room this is, like what kind of upgrades it'll give you. So maybe you enter a room, like a stats room. So you open a chest and you have a choice of either like increasing your attack or increasing your health or something to that effect. Or maybe you enter a runic attack room, which lets you unlock different random runic attacks for your weapon. And the random runic attacks, if you remember what runic attacks are, Connor, they're like basically abilities for your weapon. Because they're randomly selectable in this, that makes even the axe feel different across multiple runs, right? So like across one run, you could have like the frost beam kind of runic attack, and you could use that. And then the next run, let's say you go with the axe again, and you use a completely different, you use like Hell's Touch, which is like the high stun, quick like flashing attack that you can do. So even the weapons themselves, because of the randomized nature of the runic attacks, feel different from run to run, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Because it keeps the gameplay very fresh.
I'm just super into this ongoing trend of AAA games dipping their toe into roguelike.
Me too.
Because like,
I love it. Yeah.
What I've been playing recently, I wasn't going to talk about, but I've been playing Hitman Freelancer. And this is reminding me of that, where it's like, we had this great mechanic set. We had these enemies in God of War's case, and in Hitman's case, these brilliant levels. And like, how can we squeeze some more out of that? And yeah, roguelike is a great way to do it. It, you know, especially in a game with the kind of variety these two had.
Yeah, and the most unique thing about this roguelike in comparison to the other ones I've played is just simply the story focus. Like I'm shocked that like so much is happening in this roguelike mode.
Feels very Hades. And that if they're gonna do that, they kind of had to make it a roguelite, right? To make sure people got to see the stuff. What are the roguelite like? Are you getting stronger?
So okay, runs? So let's delve into that element. So in this in God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, there are basically 3 currencies you can earn. One is a temporary currency that you lose whenever you fail a run. Mm-hmm. So there's this currency that you get that you build up by killing enemies, either opening chests. Like one of the chest like room rewards is just like more of that currency, and you can use that currency in safe rooms to give yourself like upgrades for that run, whether that be like abilities, whether that be like stats upgrades, whatever. It's temporary. It goes away after your run ends. So that's one type of currency. The other type, the second type of currency, is a permanent upgrades type currency. So it's way rarer, but you can find it on your runs, and it persists between runs, right? So like once you fail a run, leave a run, you can go before your next run and apply that currency to get permanent stat upgrades or other sorts of permanent upgrades that will affect the actual like rooms themselves and that sort of thing. So that's the second currency. Yeah.
Would you say that you need those to finish?
No, I'm sure there are people that have done it without them. I'm just not that good.
A normal person could not do it, though.
I don't think so.
Okay.
The game is significally...
Because that's my beef with Hades. Like, a normal person is not going to beat that game without the health upgrades.
No. Yeah. Like, I don't... Yeah. It probably isn't as tough as Hades, but, like, I don't think... Like, you'd have to put a significant amount of effort into, like, just mastering the combat in that game and the encounters.
I'm not saying
to
you should be able to do it.
And I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think most interestingly, the third type of currency is a hybrid currency. So you could use it for upgrades in that specific run. Like, so say if like you're really feeling this run, you're really believing in it, you want to give it a little more extra juice, you could use that currency, that hybrid currency. But that currency, right, like once you fail the run, the currency you spent there has still been spent, right? Like, and there are specific upgrades outside the run you could use that currency for. You could use that currency to buy like permanent upgrades. So like there's a separate set of upgrades that you can buy with the hybrid currency that are permanent upgrades outside, but you could also use that currency inside to buy run enhancing things. So those three currencies, managing them is sort of how you progress Kratos' abilities in God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. And I just think the dev team like really smartly used their assets from God of War Ragnarok, because through this roguelike mode, you go to all 9 realms, which, you know, like obviously you do that in the main game of Ragnarok itself, but like it just leads to like really cool level and scene variety.
I mean, this just sounds like it would be like a super fun, like, I beat God of War Ragnarok. I really loved it. I want to sit down and have a vertical slice of that experience again.
Yeah.
That's what this is giving you. And that's the same thing Hitman Freelancer gives you. And it's so good. Like,
Hitman Freelancer is just a revelation.
No, and wild that those were both free updates. I'm putting them in the same category because until proven otherwise, I'm going to assume that this roguelike mode is really good because I think it's fair to do.
I think it's really good. I don't think it's as good as Hitman Freelancer because probably nothing is.
No, Hitman Freelancer. What did you remember that came out in 2023? By the way, what a year!
No, was that 2023?
That was 2023. Can you believe that should have been on our game of the year list?
Like, I didn't even. I legit thought it was 2022.
Insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. No,
but
yeah. It's just a really good idea for games to do it. I hope
I'm so surprised this was free.
Yeah. They could have charged for it. I feel like
because it was free, I assumed it was just some small bonus addition that really didn't have a lot of meat to it, but it's a fully fleshed out mode with story content, with like fully voice acted, you know, like it's just more God of War, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that like most people aren't going to see this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess to experience the full story, you have to beat this roguelike mode.
Yeah, they make you get good. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like, obviously, I haven't played Ragnarok in a long time, probably since I beat it a year ago. So I was so rusty when I first started this up.
Are there boss fights?
Yes.
Nice.
So this game and significant boss fights,
like new, boss fights totally new.
Like, yeah, totally new.
Wow.
And that I was just like, how is this not in the main? Like, I know I keep going back to that, but I'm just like,
yeah.
When this boss showed up, my jaw dropped. I was like, how is this not in the main game? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, it was tough. Like, it really kicked my teeth in for a while until I got used to the controls again. Because like,
that's what I love in a roguelike.
Right off the bat, you have all like the different like weapon combos and stuff unlocked, just like that. You don't have to unlock them. You don't have to like go through the menus and unlock them. They're all just unlocked. Right, so they just assume that you've been like playing this game for like 40 hours and are a master of the combat.
Like,
this is after. So like, you can play this game mode like whenever, but like even when you start up, there's a notice, right? Because it's literally like the events of this game or mode take place after God of War Ragnarok. So we strongly encourage you to do that first if you haven't played the games. But you know, obviously you can do whatever you want. But
didn't they have like almost a prototype of this in God of War 2018, like a dungeon?
Yeah. So like in Muspelheim,
that
like
didn't draw me
the combat
in
area
at
in Niflheim.
all.
Yeah. That I wouldn't even know if I would call that a prototype, but like I guess I could see some similarities. But like this is a fully fleshed out roguelike game.
I mean, it sounds like it's basically a game. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like it's basically, if you're interested in the story, it is a must play. So
yeah,
it's crazy that the story continues in a roguelike, but here we are.
Yeah, it seems like it's got a lot in common with Hades, which is gonna be popular.
Yeah, Hades was the thing it reminded me of the most.
Yeah, and you love that game.
And what's really cool is that like the way they're treating Valhalla in this game, right? God of War Ragnarok Valhalla is like, obviously Valhalla is like the afterlife in Norse mythology where you go and like warriors or etc. Everyone knows what Valhalla is. But like they're treating this version of Valhalla as like a very introspective realm that you have to like basically sort through your own demons before you can like go to like the nonstop partying version of Valhalla that you see in like comics and stuff. So obviously with Kratos, there are a lot of inner demons he has. So what you end up getting in this mode is you get lots of cool Norse mythology stuff and Greek mythology stuff, like all sort of mashed together. Yeah. So you're fighting like Greek enemies, Norse enemies, Greek bosses, Norse bosses. It's really cool.
That's awesome. I look forward to playing that in 4 or 5 years when it comes to PC. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we might be due, man. Like it's been a year now. It's been over a year. So,
but there's been no word about
it's coming.
I expected it. I thought that was what the trailer was going to be at the Game Awards, and I was a little disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I was disappointed too until I played it, and then I was just like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
they got
way more than I thought I was getting. Okay.
Yeah.
But all right, that's all I've been playing. So we good for this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, first one of 2024, already over 2 hours. Great.
Jesus Christ.
Well, you'll edit it down.
It won't. It'll still be over 2 hours.
Over 2 hours, yeah.
Yeah. But thank you all for listening. You can follow us at @podcast Game Talk on Twitter. Please like, rate, and review us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, any other podcast services you use. Click the link in the description of the podcast to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yeah. See you guys next week.
See you next week. Bye.